In life, we encounter people every day, all of whom have stories to share. We rarely take the time to ask people their personal stories, many of which will touch, move, and inspire us in some way. Matt has a passion for making authentic connections and learning about people from all walks of life. He has lived a life of giving back to the community and making a difference in people's lives. Are you ready to meet fascinating people and hear some inspiring stories? The Matt Hilton Show will introduce you to a world of possibilities you never knew existed. Sit back, be present, and enjoy. Here's your host, Matt Hilton.
Hey everyone, Matt Hilton here, the host of the Matt Hilton Show. Thank you for tuning in today. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel that you're watching right now so we can have more followers. And stay tuned for a word from our sponsor.
Inspired, experienced, customer-focused. Find a mortgage that fits your needs with Maria Leach at First United Bank Mortgage, specializing in construction and closing all types of loans, including jumbo, portfolio, conventional, FHA, and VA. A tenured team, outstanding service, competitive programs. Finance your dreams with Maria Leach at First United Bank Mortgage. mleach.firstunitedteam.com, 214-316-7915. mleach at firstunitedbank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hey everyone, Matt Hilton here, the host of the Matt Hilton Show. Thanks for tuning in today. My guest is a critically acclaimed and award-winning singer and actress, and you may know her best as Mama Williams from the NBC Emmy award-winning series Friday Night Lights. Liz Mikel, thanks for being here with me today.
It is my delight and pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So we met at the Balcony Club.
Balcony Club, yes.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. So haven't known each other a long time. We were introduced by a mutual friend.
Yes.
And I just fell in love with you when I met you in that short conversation, and I just wanted to have a sit-down conversation with you.
Well, I'm delighted, and I was delighted you all came out to the Balcony Club. That has been a labor of love for me. I host a open mic every Monday night when I'm in town, when I'm not traveling or doing other projects. But we will be celebrating our 9th year. Doing the open mic on Monday nights. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So, 9 years we've been at it. We were kind of preempted like everybody was in 2020, but my friend and fellow artist, he's the musician, the master musician there, Lenny Nance, and we would even do a Monday night music therapy from a living room, and people would call in and say, request songs, and so we kept it going even during the pandemic on Monday nights.
So what happens at the Balcony Club when you are traveling? Do they have something else going on?
I have a series of rotating hosts. Okay. People who my crowd there have grown to love and that have a rapport, and people who have been coming for years. They're just part of the family. It's kind of like Cheers. Yeah. Everybody knows your name, very seriously, and we're a family. And so they just keep it going. They keep it rolling, and people keep coming in and shining on the mic. Some people have never been there before, and some people have been coming for the whole 9 years.
Yeah. So what got you started doing that? Like, where did that passion come from?
Open mic, actually, I used to host an open mic at a wonderful little piano bar called Bill's Hideaway years ago, gay-owned piano bar over in the Uptown area, and it was just wonderful. And I did it on Sunday nights, so everybody from the theaters around town would come and converge on there on Sunday nights. And it was a very popular night in the club for people to shine. And it was just a piano, and somebody might sit in on bass every once in a while. Somebody might come and play the drums. But it was a tiny little room, and it was just an energy and a magic in the air. And a dear friend of mine, who's deceased now, who bought the Balcony Club back in 2013, 2014, Ted Davey. Ted and I had done theater together, and he left town and came back, and the Balcony Club had gone up for sale. He bought it, and he called me. He was like, Liz, it's a no-brainer. If I have a club in Dallas, you have to be there. He said, how about, what night do you want? And I was like, well, I do theater, and it's hard for me. He said, you want to host an open mic? I was like, of course. I love doing those. He was like, let's do it on a Monday, which is a dark night on theater, for theater. So it just stuck. And in March of 2014, we started, and it was Lenny, Gerard Bendix, who plays the drums, and myself, and about 10 other people in the room.
Wow.
And you saw what it's turned into
Oh,
when
yeah.
you came. Yeah.
Standing room only.
Standing room
it
only.
was an amazing time.
And our list fills up. By 9:30, we kick off, and there's a live band now. We have 5 pieces, where we just used to have Lenny and Gerard and I. Now we have George Bond on guitar, Walter Nelson, who's been filling in for Chris Barty on bass. Gerard Bendix is still on the drums, and Chuck Ledbetter plays saxophone, and Lenny Nance holding it down on the keys.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Well, thank you for doing that, because to me, that was, believe it or not, my first experience of a jazz club.
Really?
It was.
Well,
yes.
it's a pretty infectious, fun club
It really
to go
was.
to.
I'll be going back.
Yeah, 7 nights a week. There's live music there.
Okay, good to know. Got a question for you as far as you've been involved in so many things, right? I mean, the list could go on and on. The whole interview today would be a list of what Liz has been involved in. So if you could, what is the one, like, job, performance, however you want to look at it, that you have done that has meant the most to you as a performer?
There are a couple right off the top of my head. In theater, I had the opportunity. There are 2 roles in theater that just really connected with me, and one I was afraid to play. I played Lena Younger, the mother in A Raisin in the Sun, and I hadn't turned 50 yet, and I was like, I'm not Lena. And then as I started really digging into research and looking at the times, and I was like, of course, she would have gotten married at 16, 17 years old and started having kids. Yes, you are, Mama. And it was a wonderful opportunity to meld with that character. Another one was Caroline Thibodeau in Caroline or Change. That was at a time in my life where I think as an artist, I was really trying to stretch myself and grow and grab onto projects that really spoke to me. And I just finished, I literally had wrapped Welcome Home Roscoe Jenkins, that wonderful, crazy, madcap feature film with Martin Lawrence and James Earl Jones and Monique, Cedric the Entertainer. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Right.
And I had just, Michael Clark Duncan, who I played, the late Michael Clark Duncan, I played his wife in that. And I literally drove from Shreveport to Dallas to rehearsal for Caroline or Change. And I was Caroline. And they had been in rehearsal for weeks. And I stepped in and I had 1 week to get that character in my body before I was in front of an audience, and she spoke to me and spoke through me, and it happened. And I was like, what happened here? You never, I mean, an intricate musical like that, you don't enter into a week before you're in front of an audience and really try to dig into what that character is or who that character is. And it just landed with me. It just stuck. And so that was one. The last one, and I can be long-winded, but I won't. The last one that I'll never forget as long as I live, it was the 10th anniversary of the Vagina Monologues. Eve Ensler herself, the playwright, invited me to come and be a part of it. It was a star-studded event. When I tell you stars, Jane Fonda, Jennifer Hudson, Shirley Knight, Christine Lottie, Doris Roberts, Dee Dee Kahn, Faith Hill, Jennifer Hudson, Jennifer Bills. The list goes on and on. And Oprah Winfrey was supposed to show up and open the show or be a part of the show. And I guess about 3 hours before the show was to start, an assistant called me and said, there's been an emergency and Eve wants you to do Oprah's poem.
What? 3 hours before?
Okay, and did you hear the list of women that were on the show? But she wanted me. And I was like, me?
You had the right number?
Yes, I would. It was just like I wanted to look back over my shoulder. It's like, who you talking to?
Right.
And she was like, yes. And years later, talking to, her name is now V. She took Eve Ensler away and became V. V told me, she said, Liz, I didn't have anywhere to put you on that show, and people thought I was crazy when I invited you. And I had nowhere for you to be. And when you got there and then Oprah backed out, I knew exactly why you were there. And so I'll never forget it as long as I live.
Wow, that's a great backstory.
It's mind-blowing. Yeah.
Yeah. When you take on a role, how do you get into character?
Well, I try to find similarities between that character and myself. If there are no real similarities, their background's totally different. We are all human. We all go through things.
Right.
There's something that I can connect with as a mother, as a woman, as a person of color, as a woman of a certain age or size. There's something. And that human person that I'm portraying that I can connect to. And I make that connection. I have to. That's the only way I can embody the character. And because we're all just multifaceted people anyway. Nobody's just one thing. Nobody's all evil or all good. We're all these things. So that's how you dig deeper into those characters and make them come alive in you and connect with them.
Do you ever find yourself, and I'm going to ask this question, it's a question that Jeff Crilly asked you before the show, and I thought it was a great question. I loved your response. Where you're acting and you ad-lib. Like give me an example of how you've done that in the past.
Friday Night Lights was a very unique opportunity for my acting skills as a theater trained actor, and improv and being in a scene with your scene partner. Friday Night Lights allowed us to do that, and cameras just happened to be in the room. So my scene partner, who played my son, Gaius Charles, played my son Smash. Yeah, Brian Smash Williams on the show. And a lot of times we would have a script, but we would deviate from that script if the scene called for it. So there would be times I would say, come on out of this room. You know, I've cooked this dinner and I know you smell that chicken frying, don't you? Just total ad lib. And he would kind of look like, yeah, I smell it. Yeah. You know, or the line, God never fumbles the ball. He always gets the point, or whatever that line. I don't even remember what it was because it was in the moment. And I was talking to my kid, just telling him, you're gonna get a good education. You're gonna get to play ball. You're gonna be the leader on that team. Nick, you know God never fumbles. So I don't know where that came from, but it was directly from my heart to my kid's heart in that scene. And he was such a wonderful scene partner that he just went right there with it, whatever. I tell you who's remarkable at that, Kyle Chandler. Kyle Chandler and Connie Britton, they set the bar for that cast in Friday Night Lights. So I think because it was such a unique situation, and had never been done with those 5 cameras in and around and just shooting us live. There were no hidden marks, you know, and if you did ad lib in the scene and if it fit in the scene, you just went with it. Usually things are very heavily scripted, and not that Jason Katims and the screenwriters didn't do a great job, but they also gave us as artists the freedom to make our characters a part of us. And I mean, it goes on and on. People are still watching it. Thank God. Please watch.
Continue to watch. And I would assume that you can't do that when you're performing on Broadway.
Well, if you go up on a line, you do it, and which I did. I had the honor of playing John Hancock in the Broadway revival of 1776, and all female, non-binary, trans cast. We just closed that, and I'll be going on the tour. And one day, as John Hancock, at the very end, before I'm signing the declaration, I was the very first one to sign it. And the line is, gentlemen, we are about to brave a storm in a skiff made of paper. How it will end, God only knows. I went up on that line. I said, gentlemen, we are a skiff of paper. We're going to sign this, and by God, we're going to do it. And everybody had on stage had this twinkle in their eye
Right.
because as John Hancock, I really ran the end of the show, telling McNair, go ring the bell. There was all of these orders that Hancock gave as the president of the Continental Congress, and I went up on that line. So when you are in that and it feels like you're there for 10 minutes, it's really like 2 seconds.
Sure.
But everybody on stage knows you've missed the line. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you have to ad-lib your way out of it.
Right. So when you just finished up 1776 on Broadway, correct? And now you're about to go on tour. Tell the audience and myself more about the 1776 non-binary trans cast. Like, where did that come from, and whose baby was
Our
that?
wonderful directors, Diane Paulus and Jeffrey L. Page. In fact, I got the initial invitation to audition or be a part of the workshop because of my relationship with V. I had done a play for her. Diane Paulus came to see it off Broadway. She was like, "Who is that woman? Who is that?" And V was like, "You know her. She's been at your theater before with my other piece." She was like, "No, but she's got to come back." And I guess about 2 months later, I got this call, and it was from Diane Paulus. She said, "I've been doing a reimagining of the casting of 1776. It was originally written and performed on Broadway in 1969. And it was all white males, 2 females. It was a all white cast. And the revival they did on Broadway, I believe in 1997. Again, all white males and the 2 female characters. And Diane said, in today's society, I would like to hear these words coming out of people's mouths and bodies that reflect America. More importantly, people that weren't even considered when the Declaration was written. Women weren't thought about. People of color weren't thought about. People with different sexual orientations and backgrounds weren't even considered. It says all men are created equal. Well, we know now that all of us are created equal. And Diane Paulus and Jeffrey Page wanted that to be reflected for the audiences that hear these same words. We sing the same songs, but it means something different when I say, "Someone ought to open up a window," coming out of my mouth instead of a white male. Yeah, so it's been thrilling.
What challenges have you had?
Well, we've had some pushback from some people, and that just lets us know that we're doing the right thing, opening other eyes. But we've had Elizabeth Warren came to see us and told us, she said, "What you are doing is making people feel. And that's what helps change ideas and thoughts, when you make people feel." And that has been exciting. We've just had some thrilling audiences, people who've come back 6, 7 times to see the show and bring friends back, people who have loved this musical. I wasn't quite well versed on the musical. I remember "Sit down, John, sit down, for God's sake, John, sit down." I'd heard that, but I didn't know the actual play itself. I didn't know the musical. And there are people who know it. He plays the violin, that they know these songs. They know the banter and the jokes. And so they're excited. Some people are really excited to hear these words coming out of our mouths. Some people are still sticklers. That's supposed to be a march. Why did they change it? Because we do have some updated arrangements of some of the songs, which are just beautiful. One disappointing thing is we're not doing a cast album. And I think it is a missed opportunity because I think these songs coming out of our mouths, and we've got some incredible artists. I mean, incredible artists and vocalists that just give you chills. They're songs that I would stand and watch off stage. I'm not even supposed to be on stage, but I can't help myself. He plays the violin, just gorgeous. Yeah.
And so this cast is going to be traveling now?
Well, we've had to replace some of our Broadway cast. Carol Lee Carmelo, who is a huge Broadway star, has gone on to do another Broadway show, Bad Cinderella. We lost Allison K. Daniels, who played both Witherspoon, not John Witherspoon, was it John? Was it Roger Witherspoon? I can't even remember the congressman's name. But she played Abigail Adams and Witherspoon.
Okay.
She played a dual role. She's going to do Hercules, a big Disney show. So we've lost some of our cast members to other Broadway shows, but we've gained some tremendous talent that'll be going out on the road. There are several of us who were in the Broadway cast that are going, well, more than several, I guess about half of the Broadway cast will be touring. We're touring all over the country. The closest we come to Dallas, unfortunately, is Houston.
It's Houston.
Yes, we'll be in Houston in July, the end of July. So I invite everybody to come on. Y'all come on to H-Town and see us.
Yeah, Houston in July. Whew.
Oh, I know. You see what I'm saying? I was just telling Matt that for some reason we will go to Philly, Chicago, Iowa, and Denver, all in the winter. And then we'll be in LA in the spring. And then during the summertime, we swing to the Carolinas, to Tennessee, to Texas. Why they didn't put us there first? And then in July, we're in Chicago.
Right. Yeah.
Which is going to be nippy in Chicago. I was in Chicago this past August. I needed a sweater.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to come and see you. I don't know where yet. It may be Denver, it may be LA, it may be, I don't know where.
Make it. I think you'll love it.
Yeah. Oh, I know I will.
Yeah.
You're in it. I know I will.
And now I'm not playing John Hancock. I play Ben Franklin.
Oh, so you're switching
I
roles.
switch roles. I'm switching roles. I play Ben Franklin.
Wow. How is that?
Oh, Matt, it was the craziest thing on Broadway. So I was understudying Ben Franklin. I was terrified. The lady that played Ben Franklin was incredible, Patrina Murray. And she raised the bar. And I knew as John Hancock, at some point, I would have to go on if something happened to her. But there were other people that were in place. We had standbys. That was all their job, was to stand by in case they needed to go on. As understudies in the cast, we all had to cover somebody else. Well, mine was Ben Franklin. And there were other people in the cast that covered me. And I had been really lucky that Patrina had never taken off. And I guess about 2 weeks before, our assistant stage manager said to me, she said, how about we walk some of the blocking and kind of familiarize you with Ben Franklin in case something happens. I was like, okay. So, and Ben Franklin has songs. I didn't really have any big songs as John Hancock, just in the group numbers, but Ben Franklin has ensemble stuff that he does. And so I walked the blocking and I did the rehearsal and I was like, okay, thank God, I won't ever have to do that. But if I do, 2 weeks later, I was on. Shot out of a cannon. And my cast couldn't have been more supportive. But when I started telling some of those little one-liners that Ben Franklin has, the cast was like, you're a natural. There were jokes that Patrina never landed that the audience, this is wonderful. I was like, okay, I did that. I'm done.
Done.
Enter COVID, rear its ugly head toward the end of the run. Patrina got COVID. I had to go on. This was right after Christmas. And we closed January 8th. So I got a couple of runs at it. By then, I found out Patrina was not going on the tour. And I asked Diane Paulus, hey, can you bump me up to Ben Franklin for the tour? I would love to be able to sing and dance for real.
Yeah.
And she was like, you were the first person on our radar, of course. Now, I'm going to tell you the crazy thing. So Patrina was able to come back. We closed January 8th. January 6th, she came back to the show. That was a Friday night. She did the show. Well, we would have 2 shows on Saturday, a matinee and an evening show. She called the stage manager. I don't think I can do both shows. I'm still trying to get my strength back. So Saturday, January 7th, I played Ben Franklin for the matinee. And that night, I went on as John Hancock in my original role. I was like, what has just happened here?
Right.
In one day, I played both these roles on Broadway.
That is crazy.
It was crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
Crazy. Wow, what an episode. Thanks for tuning in today. Tune in next week as we continue our conversation with Liz, and she tells us about her time growing up in Dallas. Thank you and have a great day.
If you'd like to contact Matt or know a fascinating person with an inspiring story that would make a great guest, reach out to the show at themattHiltonshow@gmail.com.